Good evening. Today I'd like to talk to you about formative assessment and its direct relationship on teaching and learning experience. I will outline various forms of formative assessment that link to different age groups and to the Australian curriculum, beginning at the foundation stage. According to Piaget, young children are in the pre-operational stage, a stage in which a child is not able to operate or think abstractly, but is reliant on manipulating real materials to understand mathematical concepts. This is important to consider as our definition of mathematics is a realm of abstraction. In the first years of schooling, children need concrete examples, ones that they can touch. Therefore, mathematical activities for small children will involve hands-on experiences with different types of materials. If we look to the Australian curriculum, we can see this reflected in the content descriptor. Sort and classify familiar objects and explain the basis for classifications. Copy, continue, and create patterns with objects or drawings. Here we have some number blocks that can be used to sort into various containers and then used as patterns or objects on paper. I have some other photos here to demonstrate what I mean. This task builds upon two skills that are fundamental for the base of pre-number skills, that is the classification and pattern building and recognition. In this situation, the task itself, that is sorting and classifying objects, is the assessment strategy. This can be called a performance task, and is sometimes the only way in which a teacher is able to understand if a skill has been attained. Performance task in this sense, however, is being used in a formative way. The teacher is setting their tasks to the students and then observing and recording their behaviour. Recording methods are used to gather data, but it's only when this data is used to modify teaching practice that we can actually call it formative. In this case, it would be useful to use a checklist to record the information. Checklists make recording of children's abilities easy. They also are formative for the teacher, developing important observational skills. This can be especially helpful to novice teachers. This, however, leads us to some disadvantages of performance tasks, in that they rely on teacher observations. This is a skill that must be developed by the teacher, and is also what the teacher is looking for will in fact be value statements by the teacher. This leads us to think of an important part of assessment, that is, it must take place with a clear purpose in mind. Studies have shown that if students can take part in the assessment process, it actually helps to increase responsibility for their own learning and metacognition. For example, peer assessment helps students to be actively involved in the assessment process. It provides useful feedback to the teacher and other students. Learning through the assessment, it helps them to think metacognitively and also takes responsibility for their own learning. However, peer assessment has some limitations, in that students may not always be honest in their feedback, depending on social relations and skills, and peer assessment can also become negative in a competitive environment. Therefore, the teacher must offer structure and support to create a positive learning experience. Structure and modelling are fundamental to the success of peer evaluation. Formative assessment strategies do not need to be used in isolation. In fact, several may be used simultaneously, giving multiple sources of feedback for the teacher on student progress. For example, we can use the previously discussed assessment strategies, that is, peer evaluation and performance task, and combine them with a written word inside journaling. We can start with a content descriptor from the national curriculum. That is, for Year 5, model and represent unit fractions including a half, a quarter, a third, a fifth, and then multiples to go a third and a fifth, and then multiples to complete a whole. For this age group, we can use a performance task in which students will be able to construct and deconstruct objects, demonstrating the different fractions. We could use magnetiles, which is a fantastic manipulative in mathematics, to create different structures. The teacher would then take photos of these constructions, printing them, and then asking the children to annotate and describe what they are doing inside the photos, inside a journal. This links mathematical learning with language and reflection. Here we can see some examples of some journal activities. Students would then undertake a peer assessment activity, such as 2 stars and a wish, to complete the process. This would also be pasted into the learning journal. Using journals, the written word in mathematics helps students to make meaning and organize their ideas, create connections and link mathematical knowledge, metacognition by reflection and thinking about their own learning, and personal meaning created. This can be used for many other things after assessment. Putting mathematical ideas into the written word is important, as studies have shown that these children from culturally different or ESL backgrounds have difficulty on standardized tests due to the use of language. Limitations of this kind of formative assessment of journals can be that they're difficult to standardize. A teacher may struggle to understand a student's work, demanding conferencing with the student and adding to teacher workload, creating more work for the teacher. In summary, here we have a performance task such as journaling, writing and peer evaluation all incorporated into one mathematical lesson. We can see how this will affect not only how the lesson is structured, but its content, the role of the teacher, and ensure all aspects of the teaching and learning experience.